One more time, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Inland Empire, Orange County, Los Angeles, San Diego, Angels Radio with the reach of Southern California. I'm Bruce Cook, and this is The Conversation tonight, live. Again, you can hear it on podcast, your favorite podcast, anytime. If you can't listen to the whole show tonight, I hope you can, especially if you're in your car. Leave it on that radio station, 8:30 a.m., We're changing gears. If you're joining us, or staying with us, rather, staying with me, we talked about democracy and how we're going to deal with all of our problems for a little bit with Elizabeth Rush in our first half hour. We're switching gears now. We're getting a little bit more local, and we're joined by Shawn Chin-Farrell. Shawn, who is a friend and has been on the show before, who is recently married to his beautiful wife. He has taken part of her name. They share their name. It's Chin-Farrell. I actually said Farrell earlier, so I'm going to correct myself just so we get this off on the right start. Shawn is the athletic director at Cal State University San Bernardino, and he is live in studio tonight. Yumi is sitting here with him, taking pictures of me. I've told her to lose the double chin. She is obeying. My son Ryan, who actually works for Shawn, is sitting on the other side, and he's warning me to be careful and say the right thing, lest he be fired. I will try and obey. Anyway, Shawn, welcome to Angels Radio. It's nice to have you.
Bruce, it's always a pleasure to come on, and I know you were talking the future of democracy for your first half hour, but now we're going to talk about the really important things, college athletics.
There you go. The future of college athletics. What's happening at Cal State University San Bernardino?
Right. We're similar to most institutions in America in that we're continuing to try and find the best pathway forward for our student athletes. What that means on our campus right now is we were just about to start practice about a month ago, but then the post-Thanksgiving numbers, as everybody knows, went up, and so we've put that on pause. So for us, right now, we're on pause with our return to practice. So we're continuing to support our student athletes in every other way, whether that be with housing and their academics and their health and welfare. But unfortunately, at this point, we're not back on the competition court just yet.
You've got a campaign going to raise some money to help those kids with expenses, which are obviously daunting. Talk about it.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked. And so for us, the vision for when we came in a little over 3 years ago, the vision for us with Cal State San Bernardino Athletics was to be the best athletics department in the country. And part of that is getting the resources necessary to put your student athletes in positions to be successful. And so what that means is that it's my responsibility to go out there and basically let people know what we're doing and seeing the results of what we're doing and encouraging them to get on board. And part of that is with their support financially. And so we've been really excited we just released the Champions Fund, and it directly supports our student athletes in many of the ways I just indicated. So whether that be scholarship support, housing, academics, health and welfare, sports medicine is a huge area now, and nutrition. And so really what we're doing is continuing to find resources necessary to put our student athletes in the best positions to be successful.
If anybody out there tonight is listening to this radio show, especially in the Inland Empire or maybe elsewhere, if you were an alum of Cal State University San Bernardino, it's time to step up, people. They need some help. These kids need some help. They've been off the practice field and out of school for too long. And Shawn and his team and the rest of the university, obviously, are doing everything they can to hold it together. What is the goal on this Champions Fund? How long is it going to be going? What do you need to raise? And how do people donate?
I'm glad. So if you go to CSUSB Athletics, there's a Give Now button on our website, and it's very easy. You just go to the CSUSBathletics.com and go to the Give Now button, and you can go either to our Champions Fund, our Scholarship Fund, or if you have a particular sport that you favor, you can also give directly to that sport.
And if you're listening also, and your experience at college, and maybe you didn't even go to Cal State San Bernardino, you went somewhere else, but you realized that the importance of that student athletic program made such a big difference either in your life or your kid's life or your friend's life or just your college experience. They need some help. and they're not asking for very much. I understand you're asking for actually very little, not enough, in fact. There's got to be some heavy hitters out there that have been really successful and have managed to survive this pandemic, made some money. Not everybody has suffered, but if you haven't suffered, step up. Step up. Give that website again.
Yes, it's csusbathletics.com. And I just want, to your point about our donation, and so this is where I'm really proud of not just our student athletes, but those who are starting to give. So many of our faculty and staff on campus, especially our staff, like we had a gentleman who's worked on campus about 20 years. His name's Dan Herman, and he stepped up and said, I want to be the first donor to your fund, and it was $5,000. And he said, I'm using this, I want you to encourage the rest of my fellow peers on campus to start giving. And for him, in his circumstances, to give us $5,000, that's a real impact on him. And so the fact that he was willing to do that, and that's where when we talk about a dollar amount, here's what I want to say. I want to challenge your listeners out there and say, for the first half an hour tonight, you heard about the future of democracy, and I don't think I'm stretching too far to say athletics, those are the future. That's where we develop our leaders, is through athletics. And so when we talk about the future leaders of the Inland Empire in Southern California, we're talking about the student athletes that we develop on our Cal State campuses, and specifically for us, Cal State San Bernardino.
That's a pretty strong statement, especially coming from you, an attorney.
Correct. Yeah, I live what I preach, and so I'm Cal State educated. I went to Sonoma State University. I was a soccer student athlete there, and I use that as my pathway forward to go to law school at the University of Washington, and practiced a number of years. And it was time for me to start giving back, and that's why I transitioned into college athletics. And I say I haven't worked a day in my life since, and I really have committed my life to developing our young people to be the future leaders.
Talk a bit about the specifics of what is going on at San Bernardino for these student athletes that are not on the field, that are trying to hold it all together.
Yeah, it's a great question, and this is where we talk about where athletics really benefits the growth and development of a young person. And so everybody's challenged from a mental health standpoint. Doesn't matter if you're a student or I'm sure, Bruce, you've had your days over the last 9 months.
How about today?
Exactly. And so what our responsibility is that many of them are on campus by themselves because our campus is virtual. So we do have student athletes in the dorms, and so we need to continue to provide resources for them, plus just academic support, mental health support. There's so many different areas that we need to continue to, as we say, we're a surrogate parent for them, our coaches are, and the rest of our department. So in any way that a parent continues to support their child, that's our role with these student athletes.
That's above and beyond the call. I don't think a lot of universities and other places are doing that.
Well, and that goes back to why we do what we do and who we recruit to come coach and be engaged in our athletics program. Because, again, I'm someone who benefited from being a student athlete, and I get it. And I've also someone who worked in the real world, and I see the benefits that come from developing young people. And so that's why we take this approach, because back to our vision as an athletics department, our vision is to be the best athletics department in the country. And so in order to do that, we're going to do it a bit different.
That's a lofty goal. How would you rate the progress of that goal so far? How long have you been there?
So I've been about 3.5 years. I came in summer 2017. At that point, the athletics department, I would say, was a hidden gem. There was a lot of built-in opportunities there. It's a beautiful campus. It does tremendously well. It's the beacon in the community. But quite frankly, there was no direction in the athletics department, and so that's what we were charged to do, come in and give it direction and give it a challenge. And so what we've seen is our volleyball team won a national championship in fall 2019. The anniversary of that championship was last week, actually, a couple weeks ago. And it's a little hard because we had the core of that team coming back this year and unfortunately did not get the opportunity to try and win it again. Our men's basketball team was a 500 team when we came in. We made a transition there, and we were a top 20 program last year, made the NCAA tournament, first time in 6 years, and quite frankly probably had the best team in the West Coast this year, and we're going to compete for a national championship. And so you talk about what resources do. One of the things we're doing is ensuring that we're keeping all those kids, because everybody gets to keep their eligibility. This year doesn't count. So one of our charges and responsibilities is to make sure we're supporting all those kids so they're coming back ready to go for next year.
How many kids are we talking about? How many students do you have?
Yeah, we have 250 student athletes across 10 sports.
Wow. So, what's the prognosis at this point for coming back? I understand that the full regime is not going to come back in the spring as hoped for. Where do we go?
Right, and so much of it just depends on what happens with the virus and how we do as a Inland Empire, specifically for us, with regards to how we manage it and control it. And then obviously we see where the vaccine goes and how quickly that can be distributed. So for us, we're kind of targeting best case scenario is return to practice in February and potentially competition in March if everything goes well.
I hope it does. What about the virus? Has it impacted your school?
Absolutely, in the same way the rest of the Cal State system, in that we've been virtual. Our Chancellor White, over the whole system, was one of the early thought leaders. And I don't know if you just recently saw, but the Cal State system was voted the top higher ed system in the country this year based on that leadership. And so again, we're at the Cal State system, we lead. And one of the things we're doing on our campus is trying to make sure that we put our student athletes in the best spaces to be healthy, but doing it the right way.
If they are in these dorms, as you stated, and they're living there, doing their schoolwork virtually, how do you protect them from the virus? What steps have been put in place? Because they got to be going a little stir crazy.
Correct. The biggest thing is education. And so ensuring that they understand why masking is important, why social distancing is important, because I'm sure you recall being an 18 to 22-year-old college student, and social is, the name of the game, right? And so for our young people, it's really reassuring them that the discipline that it takes to do all the little things to keep themselves healthy will pay off in the long run.
We're going to take a quick break, Shawn. I appreciate your coming on with your candor tonight about what's happening in the school. We got a lot more to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bruce Cook. It's The Conversation, live tonight on AM 830. We'll be right back.
Angels Radio,
AM 830.
If the woman you love, your mother, wife, daughter, sister, partner, or friend, is on a downward spiral from substance abuse and doesn't know where to turn, let us help. New Directions for Women, a Costa Mesa-based addiction treatment facility, has the answer. Since 1977, we have helped over 5,000 women change their lives, returning them to sober, healthy living, restoring love, hope, and dignity to them and their families. Don't wait another day. The woman you love needs your help now. Call us at 888-786-0509 or visit us at www.newdirectionsforwomen.org. Again, 888-786-0509. New Directions for Women. We know recovery.
Does learning a language feel like this?
No habla español?
Hablo.
It's hablo?
Yes.
It's hablo.
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
Since my husband is from Guatemala, I'll apply what I've learned in Babbel to our real-life situations.
The app is so easy to use and it's so practical. It helps you learn things that you will actually need.
Babbel, language for life, celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at babbel.com. That's babbel.com, BABBEL.com.
A present? For me? Aw, you shouldn't have. But I'm so glad you did. Now your top 5 reasons to visit Morongo. Number 5.
Get gas with your rewards points. It's easy. Play, earn, pay with points.
Number 4.
Christmas to go. Get a whole roast turkey, glazed ham or prime rib with 8 sides and pie for one low price. Call 866-234-7006 now.
3.
You may need a bigger tree. Gift a day giveaway. Earn 500 points on your rewards card weekdays and get that day's gift all week.
Number 2.
We're the safest. Thermoscans, masks, and socially distanced gaming ensure you can play safe this holiday season.
And the number 1 reason to go to Morongo Casino Resort and Spa.
$100,000 fully loaded giveaway. You can win $100 in free slot play by playing with your rewards card, Saturdays and Sundays.
Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Morongo. Play it safe. Good times.
Free shipping is great. Free shipping no minimum? That's that Walmart Plus magic for your holiday. Get all your last-minute shopping done with free next-day or 2-day shipping on a huge selection of eligible items from Walmart.com. With no order minimum, free shipping means the freedom to click that order button to your heart's content. Just another added benefit to your membership. Maybe that's why it's called Walmart Plus. Start your 15-day free trial today at walmart.com/plus. See membership details, restrictions apply.
Angels Radio.
AM 830.
We're back, everybody. It's Bruce Cook, The Conversation. We're live tonight with Shawn Chin-Farrell from Cal State University, San Bernardino. We're talking student athletes. We're talking the future of student athletes and the future of education. Shawn, in the first half hour, as you noted when you came on to talk about what's going on at San Bernardino, you mentioned listening to the democracy part of our show. And part of what we talked about in that half hour was how the American map has changed so much and how very diverse the country is. In fact, I don't even call it diversity anymore. I call it segments of society, because there's no such thing as minorities. The groups are very large and very impactful and very influential in everyday life now. It's not just black or white, simple differences between people. Cal State University is probably a core example of that diversity in America in education today. Talk about that.
Yeah, I'm going to digress real quick just for a second. So I face this personally. So my mother's side of my family is Native American. My grandmother, great-grandmother grew up on the reservation, and someplace I visited frequently as a child. And so the blending of my family and then the blending of my marriage. My wife is an immigrant from South Korea, and so I live of what you speak. And then when we talk about our campus, we are a Hispanic serving institution. Now, to meet that threshold, you need to be 25% Hispanic. We're majority Hispanic institution. Our student athlete population is incredibly diverse. We're 40% Hispanic, 20% Caucasian, 20% African American, and then the final 20% is either multiracial, international, et cetera. So when this last year, when we started seeing these various race issues percolate, it was provided an opportunity for a wonderful conversation within our student athlete population, because again, that age group identity becomes a really important growth area for them. And so when we talk about what athletics can do, we need to talk about how it can blend and merge people that from a political spectrum, from socioeconomic, from just every possible background can find common ground.
Well, did they find common ground? Your students find it. We've gone through a pretty rough year in terms of racial disharmony. Lots of bad stuff. Lots of questions. Lots of scary stuff, actually. Did they find that, or was there divide on campus? Was there hostility? Was there anger? Was there friction?
At times, and
what was it?
Well, at times I think you shouldn't avoid friction. What you need to do is, quite frankly, dive into it and ask the questions, and so we can all grow, both the individual and the institution. And so for us, it's about how we go about having those conversations. So it's less about any one particular event. It's more about how we move forward. To your point earlier, how can we have those conversations in a respectful, and this is often overused term, but safe way, so that we can grow from it, because it's not going anywhere. So we need to acknowledge it and be able to, and this is one of our responsibilities within athletics, is not just for the success of a team, because you have to learn to overcome some of your own personal challenges for the betterment of the team, but we need to learn how we adopt that and do that within the greater society, quite frankly, whether it be a work setting or how we function.
Well, that's a big topic which we're not going to solve tonight on radio, I'm afraid.
Fair enough.
But listen, how serious do you think those 250 student athletes that you supervise take their education at San Bernardino as well as their athletics?
Well, and that's when we talk about a growth area over the last few years. So when we came in, the student athlete GPA was about just a tick under 3.0. So we've seen that grow every year. To this last year, we had an all-student athlete GPA for the last academic year of a 3.24. So we've increased that almost 0.3 of a point. And part of that is we hold them accountable and we challenge them, because I think what we've all seen, especially with young people, if you hold them to a certain bar and then you provide them the support to get there, it's amazing how they'll stretch over it. And that's what we found.
I also imagine that money is a big factor. A lot of the kids are on scholarship or have financial need. So far, the state of California has been pretty generous in helping kids with higher education. What challenges do you face?
Well, I'm really glad you asked it, because for us, the Cal State system, when it comes to how it supports athletics and scholarships, so for us, we actually are budgeted less than half of the total number of scholarship dollars that we could give, the NCAA would allow us. But what is encouraging for us is that it's less than $7,000 a year for tuition to Cal State San Bernardino. So back to our earlier conversation about the Champions Fund. If somebody gives $7,000, they've just paid full tuition for one student athlete for the year. And so that's been, when we go out and we communicate and we talk about, well, what impact would my gift have? Well, you could give to some institutions that are $50,000 a year, and a $7,000 gift it's not going to have that impact. But for us, you can absolutely change someone's life, because for our level, if you're not paying, getting your school paid for, that means you're going out and getting a job, because it's the reality of the population of our student athletes, where they come from, that the socioeconomic setting is, if they're not having a scholarship, that probably means they're going to have to get a job. So when somebody gives $7,000, $10,000, the impact that has on that one individual is incredible.
Boy, that's quite a speech. I understand the Champions Fund has a loftier goal. You want to make this an annual thing, and you want to grow it into a big deal, so you have a reserve and an endowment. Talk about it.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's our ambition is this needs to be $1 million a year fund. The reality is where we want to go from the support of our student athletes and providing them the resources and supporting them to be, whether they want to be professional in their sport, whether they want to go take their degree and go right into the workforce. For us to be able to do that, we need to grow this to be $1 million a year fund.
How are you going to do that? We've only got a minute left, Shawn. How are we going to get to that $1 million? How long is it going to take? How are you going to get outside people to step up and make these donations and sponsor it and make this a real thing?
Well, it starts with conversations like this. And here's the thing, when it comes to our desire, it's all about us getting out and having a conversation, because once you start meeting our student athletes or you're hearing their stories, they sell themselves. So for us, the biggest challenge we have is just finding the avenues to have the conversation, because once you've had the conversation, you're going to want to give. Why don't you come on in the new year, sometime in January, and bring a couple student athletes with you? Let's talk to them. Let's hear their story. Let's find out what their motivation is. Maybe it will help. I think that might be another step forward. Bruce, I feel like you just gave me Christmas gift early. I really appreciate it. That sounds like a fantastic idea. On that, we have to end our conversation. I want to